And today we're talking about what is the best way to get your product or services in the hands of your consumer or those that are going to consume it. So this is actually a bit of a trick question. And I'm going to tell you why it's a bit of a trick question later. But first, I want to go over what are we talking about here? What do you mean get it in the hands of your customer? Well, those are called distribution channels. What are the different ways you are going to deliver your product or services? Where are they going to find your product? And these are some of the questions you want to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out which is the best way to get your product in the hands of your consumer. So sometimes you'll hear it called place, distribution channel, or marketing channel. I don't like the term marketing channel because I think of other things, so I'm going to say distribution channel. How are you going to get your product out there? And so there's actually many different ways you can go about this. And first, I'm going to cover a retail example because that a physical product that's easier for people to understand. So the first way, I'll give Natural Zing as an example. The first way we started to get our product out there to consumers was we put an online store and we sold directly to consumer. Now, another thing that we could have done, actually we did do, we actually also had a storefront where that was also direct to consumer. So we started with an online store and we went directly to consumer from selling from our online store. That's called B2C. Next, we had natural food stores calling us up and saying, we would like to sell your products in our store. That is called B2B. That is a wholesale distribution model where we sold to the store and they sold to consumers. Now, there's pros and cons of that. So when you're thinking about that for your product, think, well, what are the pros and cons? Well, you get to more people. You get your product out to more people. The downside is it's a more complex sale. It's you're actually selling a little bit differently as far as value proposition, but it's a much larger volume. It's a more sophisticated sale, and you have to reduce your price. So you have a lower profit margin per product, per item. The next model is more of a distribution model where you're selling it to a distributor, and there's large distributors out there, and they are selling it to natural food stores. Again, you're getting it out to many more consumers, many more businesses. You don't have to call up the stores yourself and try to market and get into their buyer. And if you've done that, you know what I'm talking about. But you sell to a distributor and they sell to the stores. The downside to that is even a bigger cut, so a tighter profit margin, smaller profit margin. You have to look at where your customers are, where's the best way to access them, where are they most likely to shop, and which model is best for you. Also, is this product, is it a physical product? Do you need to, use these different distribution models to get the product out there? Is there enough profit margin? So these are all some of the questions that you need to ask yourself when you're determining which model to use. There's another model, and I actually have these in a little graphic here. I don't know. Let me post this up here. Oops, that way. The last one is a broker agent model. And traditionally, this has been where you had a sales broker, and they sold to the distributors and they sold to the stores and all of that. But there's other models like that nowadays that are much more flexible. Amazon, for example. Okay, so you can have your own products. You own the product, and you can use their marketplace. You can sell on Amazon Marketplace, and you're shipping out from your location, or your drop shipper is sending out from their location. Or you can have Amazon fulfill the product. You are shipping it to their warehouse. You still own the product, But Amazon, in both of those cases, makes a commission, and they also charge for the fulfillment services if it's in their warehouse. So keep in mind that is a model that a lot of people say, oh, I want to do that model. But keep in mind, you have to look at what that commission rate is, and does it make sense for your business? Another popular example of that is influencers. There's many influencers out there who will promote your product as long as they get a commission from the sales that their audience purchases. So you can give them a coupon code or some sort of code, a special link, and when they purchase from your website, it gives them a commission. Also known as affiliate marketing. So there's another way to that's also that broker base. So these are the models for retail. But what about business? What about services? So for example, health coaches. If you're a health coach, you have knowledge. How do you get that knowledge out there? Well, one way would be to write a book. It's low cost, it can get out to the masses, but it's time consuming. Another model a little bit higher up than that is creating a workshop. And then you could have that face to face, you could have that online, you could have a recorded workshop, you might have a 3-day workshop, you might have an online course, you might have a one-to-one coaching. And actually, that's what I recommend for health coaches just starting out. Do the one-to-one coaching. Get your model and your content very clear before you start to replicate it in other ways. Make sure it's proven. You could also do small group coaching or large group coaching. So there's lots of different ways to get it out there. Sometimes it's live face-to-face, sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's live online, or sometimes it's recorded. So those are lots of different ways that you could choose to get your product out there. And it depends on, I have a fly hanging around me, sorry. It depends on how your customers want to, where they are, what's the most convenient way for them to consume the content, and the easiest way for them to make that purchase. Also, what are your strengths? What's the easiest thing for you to do? What are you strong in? What do you excel in? Also, another thing about your product, which is the best delivery model so that the consumers get the best results out of the product. So that's also something to consider. So I talked about that this be a sustainable business. You need multiple business models. And I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, Natural Zing, we have multiple distribution models. So we sell directly to consumers, to stores, to cafes, to wholesale manufacturers. And we also do affiliate marketing. For cafes, prior to the pandemic, they were one of our strongest segments. During the pandemic, they had to shut down. And they were shut down sometimes for weeks, months. Sometimes they never came back. Some of them closed permanently. And so that segment got hit really hard. But Natural Zing didn't really feel the hit because we were selling directly to consumers, because the natural food stores were picking up in sales during that time. Everybody was going to the store instead of eating out at restaurants. So when you have different ways to get your product out there, if change occurs, if there's a blip, if something happens, and the market does change. Natural Zing, we've been around for nearly 20 years. We've seen this market change a lot, and we've had to change our distribution model to be able to stay sustainable. And so when you're looking at different business models, start with what's easiest for you and makes the most sense for your consumers, but look at the other models as well. See if there's another model that is the next best fit. It might be, ultimately long term, your best fit. Natural Zing started with direct to consumer, but At one point, about 10 years in, the B2B sales way outtook the consumer sales. And then that market shifted again a bit, and that B2B market went down and the consumer market went up. So, but being able to have multiple ways to get your product out there is the best way to be a sustainable business.